Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Crimi-Trent. Today we're going to be painting potted herbs in our sketchbook. Yes, it's Art Therapy Thursday, so I figured why not do something that's really therapeutic by painting herbs. Herbs are so good for you, they're medicinal, they help you heal, and everyone's going through some healing right now and anxiety, so why not do something that will make us think of that. I love herbs. I love having them in my garden. I love the smell of some of them. They're just great. This is a simple under 10 minute tutorial that anybody can do. If you have a wet media sketchbook, that's all you need. One paintbrush and a few colors. So let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to go over my supplies. I have my Moleskine sketchbook here. I've clamped it down with 2 clamps to make sure it doesn't buckle. This is a wet media sketchbook. You can find this online, Amazon, other places sell them. I'm going to be using my Velvet Touch number 5 round brush from Princeton. Paper towel, my various paints. I'll go over them as I use them. I have my water jars up here. So I've already drawn in the pots. You can see them kind of here. Pretty simple. And then the herbs. I'll show you simply how to draw some of them. They're very simple. I mean, we're not going to be realistic here, as we always talk about. Basil leaves are just your typical leaf. You know, and they come in 3 to 5 prongs, like this. Rosemary, we could just put like a nice line branch, and then they have these little skinny little herbs coming off of them, just like that. And then I'm going to be doing parsley. Now that's a little funny and tricky. When you're painting it, it's easier than just drawing it, because you're going to be painting like this little fuzzy little parsley leaf. You know, they come out like this, just little funny little flappy little leaves like this. So basically, you're drawing like you're going to do like a regular leaf, but then you do these little jagged, little flappy edges. Chives is just simple, straight up and down lines, and then chives have these blooms, these little flowers at the end. Sometimes I actually have some chives growing in my garden right now, and the blooms are getting ready to open up. And then thyme, I'm going to do thyme, which I use a lot. Again, a little skinny branch, and there's little teeny weeny little leaves. They have little flowers sometimes at the top too. And the basil, and it gets a little crazy and grows, it's got those little flowers at the top. So I hope that helped a little bit. I mean, basically, like I said, rosemary is just like a branch, and you got those skinny little leaves. Thyme's got branch, tiny little leaves. Chives are just up and down, and then the parsley, like I showed you, typical branches, but then the leaves start out like normal on top, then they kind of like jaggedy, you know, they have this weird funky jaggedy look to them. Cilantro is kind of similar, and basil is just like a typical leaf. So let's get started. And well, do you need me to show you how to draw a terracotta pot? I mean, it's really easy. You're just drawing a simple rectangle, going across, line down at an angle, meet it. That's how you do it. And if you don't want to draw that kind of pot, draw a half circle pot. That's a cute pot too. Some lines in there. Play around with it. For our purposes, we're just doing the typical terracotta looking pot today. I've mixed up some of this. I have a tube of burnt sienna, and that's in here. Mixed various greens. Burnt sienna is just the easiest color on the planet to make a terracotta pot with. I'm just going to water it down a little bit. And now this paper, which I've gone over before, I have a potted plant, a flower plant tutorial. It's not a watercolor paper. It's not going to bleed the same. So your paint consistency is going to be a little different, and the way it absorbs the water and the paint is going to be different. Try not to keep it too wet, because it's not going to do well. It's going to buckle. So I'm going to start by painting the terracotta pots. And I'm just using that burnt sienna. It's like a perfect color. I'm going to fill it in. Just go like that. You could actually go in and fill all of them in if you wanted to, which is a good idea. You're going to need to do a shadow on the lip of the terracotta, obviously. So once that dries, we're going to do it. We're going to add the shadow in. I'm not going to do any bleed because I can show you what I mean by that. I'll grab some of this concentrated terracotta. I'll add a little burnt umber to it and a little medium red, get a little darker. See, the bleed is not going to be as pretty as if you were using the Arches paper. It's just not as nice. It's just going to bleed crazy. It's going to bleed up and down all around. So what I suggest is to make the water minimal in your paint. More, more of a concentrated color that's drier. The wet on wet on this kind of paper is not going to really go well. It's still going to have a nice look even by using watercolor. And actually, in these kind of sketchbooks, if you do have gouache, use that. It will hold up much better. Gouache is just a better medium for these type of books. If you've never heard of gouache, I have a couple of gouache tutorials. Basically, it's opaque watercolor. So you can use it similar to watercolor if you want. Have this translucent look, and I'll show you how to do that. But mostly it's opaque, so it's kind of like using acrylic paint. But the big difference between acrylic and gouache is gouache can be reactivated with water, acrylic paint cannot. It's permanent. It's not gonna be reactivated. They do make acrylic gouache. To me, it's just, you might as well just use acrylic paint. It's the same thing. But maybe the consistency is a little better, I don't know. So here I'm adding a darker shade to show the shadow on the pot here. And then grab in and grab this darker shade here, since it's going to dry fairly quickly since I'm not using very wet. And I'll do the shade under here. Just a darker tone of the terracotta. And then on the edges here. And put that in like that. Keep filling that on. It's kind of good to do it all at once because you have the color made. If you do it one by one, you could do it that way also, but it's better to use the color. And keep adding in a darker tone. This is like a deep terracotta tone on that lip, underneath that lip, and on the bottom here. So we've got those in. I'll zoom in a little bit. We're going to work on our leaves. Now, the basil leaf, we know about that, simple. All these kind of herbs have a similar color tone in green. So we're going to mix up a bunch of this. I have medium green here, some hooker's green. We'll dilute it a little bit. But they're fairly similar in color. And I'll show you what I mean. I printed out a picture from herbs that I liked. And see, these tones don't really vary it much, do they? Some herbs do. Obviously, sage has like a purple tone to it. Some a little brighter than others. But for the general part of it, we're going to keep it similar in tone. Thyme will be different because you'll have the stem will be brown. Same thing with rosemary, has a little brownish green stem. But for the basil, just going to grab that green and we're going to put in those big green leaves. Just like I showed you how I drew it. Just putting in 3 little big, 3, 4, 5. Now I grow a lot of this in my garden. So we can make pesto, I put it in sauces. It's a great one to have. And now the stem of this will be green also. Not all the herb stems are the same, are green, and they will be darker. So I'll take some of my darker hooker's green, mix with some indigo, get a darker tone, go throughout. And I'm just putting the stem in between. Shows like they've been on top of the stem, and then I'll pull the stem up to the top here. Put one down over here, because I want to do it in threes. And we're just going to do these little teeny little leaves. This is the growth on the top. When it starts to get, I always pluck these off because it's better for the leaves. And then, just for color intents purposes, you get these little teeny purple flowers on the top. I'll grab some of my violet, water it down a little bit. You get these little purple flowers on top. Just gonna dab those in like that. And then you have basil. Simple as that, right? Rosemary, darker green. It's a deeper green. So we're gonna use some of the Hooker's green, or any green you have. You can mix anything you have and make it a deep green. Again, we're gonna put the stem downward. We'll have it varying over this way, going that way, one in the middle, like a three-pronger. And then just taking a brush, just pushing it down like that. It's going to create those leaves for us without us having to do much work. You want to keep them, that was got a little too fat, but you want to keep them kind of skinny like this. And just moving your brush back and forth, up and down that branch you did. And that is a simple rosemary. Rosemary herb is great in chicken and lots of other dishes. Meats, chicken. All these herbs are so good for you. Moving on to parsley. Now I use parsley in a lot of stuff. I also use cilantro too, but parsley in Italian cooking is a staple. So we're going to just draw down some branches in that light green. I'm going to go up here, another one over here. And then we're going to do those, you know, you can put a little darker if you want a darker tone in here. 3 lines down. And then we're going to do little branches off of that. See, little branches off of that. And then from those branches, we're going to put in our leaves. Just going to fill our brush. Just going to fill our brush with this green color. And this is good to use a small brush. I'm going to just push down like that. Push down and push down and push down. It kind of makes the leaf itself. Pushing down, push down, and push down. So what it leaves is space in between. I don't know if you can see that. I'm going to zoom in a little more. Just pushing down on the brush, down, and meeting like that. So it's kind of like a fork. And you can go up here, and you've got this simple parsley leaf. If you want to just use your brush that way. And we're doing the leaves off those little the smaller branches. Just little leaves. And my parsley is actually growing right now in my garden. It's getting there. The weather is getting a little nicer, so they're starting to grow. And there you go. Now chives, so simple. Same kind of green color tone. They're kind of like a hollow stem, like it's a V but skinny. I'm just going like that. And you can put some darker tones in the bottom where it goes up, and that's just simple. You're just taking your brush and going down like that. You can add in some deeper green tones. But that is the easiest herb on the planet to paint. You're just literally taking your brush and doing a stroke. It's not that hard. Now for the flowers, it kind of reminds me of bee balm, but again, they're like a purple tone, purple pink tone. Then you do the little flowers, just like these little fuzzy balls on top. And that's that simple. Simple little strokes. Those are the chive flowers. And then the thyme. Do we have time to do thyme? Yes, I'm a comedian. I'm going to move that over. A woody branch, brown. but I would make it a little bit lighter. I'm going to have some brown. I'm going to add some green to my brown. So I added some green to burnt umber, whatever brown you have. You can add some red to it. Burnt sienna to it would be nice. So I'm going to actually add some burnt sienna to mine. Just lighten it up just a tad. Okay, so the thyme's a crazy little wiggly, you know, crisscrossing wiggly ones. They grow wild like that. And then you're going to grab your green. You're going to make two tiny little roundish petal leaves. Like I showed you, they're really, see, they have rounded. But that's easy to do on your brush. And just kind of make them like a little ball, the point at the end. And you go like that. And those are the thyme. Cute little ball. Just go up and down each little wiggly branch. Sometimes different types of thymes have those purple flowers in the ends also. I consider lavender an herb in a way because of the smell and the healing properties of it. You could have put lavender in here if you want to change up and have some. There's so many I didn't do. There's dill. I didn't do sage, which has a purplish green tones to it. You don't have to do these herbs, just to give you an idea. See, that's the crazy time. And now we're going to go back in, add a little details like the darker part of the stem down here, where it gets close to the pot, or one's behind it. Start in adding the detail. Some darker petals, little thyme leaves down here, and sporadically throughout, so it's not looking like one tone. Again, add in some darker tones of the green. And the branches up in here. The consistency of the paint should be very creamy, very little water. And here, and you can add some more basil if you want. Add another one over here. You can get very detailed if you want. Add little veins in the basil leaves. And then the pots. Oh, this green got in my pots. You can go in and add some green got into my paint. How dare that green get there? There's the Terra Cotta color. Finish up the pots just even more. Now that it's dry, the shadow, and up in here. Now, since I really didn't need to clip this much because it wasn't that wet, I can take that off, and it's easier to work with. And I can turn my book, and I can put in a shadow when the pots are on the bottom. Really simple. I will grab, you can grab a blue tone, a gray tone. This is like a blue indigo. It's really watered down. And I'm just going to put the shadow, the pot. That's simple. And just keep playing around with it, and then I think it'd be really cute if you take a, gotta find one of my pens. I love these Sharpie skinny no bleed pens, and then you could write on the bottom, you know, basil, rosemary, parsley, chives, and thyme. They're kind of cute just to put the wording in there because it's a sketchbook. Like I said, a sketchbook is fun for like little studies. If if you didn't want to just do this Terra Cotta pot, you could put in pattern. You could make it any color you want. You know, play around with what you want to do for the pot. Even a background, you can put a background in there. But I'm just giving you a simple thing to do. I think it's very therapeutic just to paint. And herbs are very therapeutic. A lot of these herbs are great for digestion, de-stressing. I could go through and try and find out the real meanings of what each one does for you, but I just put tons of herbs in my food. I love it. But taste value, never mind the healing properties of it. So I hope you enjoyed this really simple, easy tutorial. An idea for your sketchbook, for something to do when you don't know what to do. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you come out of your rut. And it helps me come out of my rut at the same time. We're working together on getting out of our ruts. Now I can add a little purple, like I said, to the end of the time. That would be kind of pretty. Just to balance over here too. So thank you guys so much for stopping by my channel. I hope you enjoyed our quick little tutorial today. I hope you're de-stressing just by painting, just by doing. It relieves a lot of the stress and anxiety and keeps your mind off other things. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon.